He was never in the restaurant, ever.
Very briefly, just why is that important? Like, couldn't they do it as they experience it in the living room?
Well, because the way you would do the reading
Okay.
is that our experts came in, they set up a bunch of sound equipment, very loud sound equipment, while the restaurant was, they kicked everybody out. We were in their apartment, and they turned the stuff on and they communicate. What can you hear? What can you hear now? And what kind of reading they get. This is all, it's not what I hear, it's what is picked up in decibels. And so that becomes part of the testing. So that's what we did, and we made appointments, and we did that twice with them. Their expert never did the same reading. He never came into the restaurant, set up the same sound equipment, went upstairs to their apartment, and took the same reading, because then we would know, hey, our expert says it's 47, which is 3 points below what the city says you need to have, and their expert says it's 54. Right. At least they would have that in a reading. They don't have that.
So let's assume that you're in legal compliance.
Yes.
Let's assume that you're not making this up out of thin air.
Believe me.
But also you're also saying that you are in the process of fixing your ceilings.
That is correct.
You're going to drop the ceiling.
We were putting in another layer with insulation in between. That's correct.
Not according, but is it following the report that the expert gave about doing 2 layers?
Well, it's following the report from our expert, which took their reading from inside the restaurant and the apartment.
It's so, I mean.
Not a person who simply walked in and said, I agree, it's loud, and wrote it down. I mean,
One person who just said it's loud. I walked in and heard conversations from the restaurant while I'm trying to
But
say
I mean,
But you
it's
Let's
crazy.
just
You
have
will
a question
hear
from our
something.
colleagues
Just,
as well.
like, we've all sat here and heard restaurants talk stuff and say, he sounds like he's trying to do the right thing.
Yes.
To me. That's what it's like. I've heard other guys in here and they're not trying to do the right thing. So what he's saying sounds like he's trying to do the right thing. Why don't we let him try that? And if that doesn't work, then we go back at it. But it sounds like he's doing the right thing from what I hear.
it also sounds like something is a little odd if you can hear conversation.
And that,
It's
it's
weird.
a building
Any,
thing too.
you know, any,
Yeah,
if you have a dry cleaner
Exactly.
down
In
there,
our-
they're
in
gonna have
our-
a conversation.
well, in our-
I mean,
in
if you
our,
can hear it that clearly.
in Sound Sense's report, when it was completely quiet in the restaurant, with nothing going on, they didn't put on their noise machines or anything like that, they heard conversations in their apartment.
Right.
And they heard doors closing, doors opening, they heard people walking. It's impossible to hear us walking below you on concrete.
Right.
So they couldn't identify where all those other sounds were coming
It's a
from.
general issue.
Right,
that's
we can't say that it came
Yeah.
from the butcher or from
You know
the L
it's
Lounge,
a
but
cheap
The
building.
building,
Right.
But
it's
it's
you
there.
guys. You guys got to figure that one out.
That's why the developer
Well,
had them
doesn't-
sign that they can't.
Yeah, well, that's,
That's what.
Bobby's also.
So-
Okay, can we have a question? Are you a resident as well?
I'm a resident of the building. I actually don't hear any of the sound. I'm here in support of my neighbor because we live in Harlem. We are a community. We like to get along.
Which is your neighbor, sir?
Ken is my neighbor.
Oh, okay.
We live in the same building.
What
So
floor
is
do you live
Lucille.
on?
I live on the 4th floor.
Oh, okay.
But let me ask you a question.
Well, most of these,
So
I'm
I'm here in support of my neighbor Lucille and Ken because really I just want to find the compromise. And it sounds like you guys are heading in that direction, which is basically let them do the work.
Right.
Hopefully this, because we're not going to settle the sound issue here today.
No.
This is a
Right.
suit, this is for the court to decide and for them to find the common ground. And let them find the common ground and postpone the liquor license until that is resolved.
No, I don't think that's for you to say.
I'm just, that's my suggestion.
well, that would physically hurt us, given the time that it takes to get the license. You know, I mean, we're only trying to do business. We're not becoming a lounge. We're not becoming a nightclub. I mean, we really are a nice restaurant where you can come in and get a nice meal. And there actually aren't a whole lot of places like that. We're not, nothing against Corner Social or anything like that. We're not that kind of place. We are, as odd as it sounds, we're the quiet place.
Well, I'm not, I mean, again, I can only tell you when I walked into her apartment and I flat out told my
It sounds
wife
like a building issue
that
more
I
than
could
his
never
issue.
I would never stay in that apartment. because of the type of sound problems. What I don't understand is the fact that I live above the butcher and they're pounding and beating and sawing, cutting, and I hear zero from them. So I do know that, yes, we were told about that when we signed our final paperwork in the department, there would be church noises, noise from the church, sound, because they are a church. Of the things that I've had to call the police on and cite for were things that had no connection whatsoever to religion or to the church, other than they sell their space and they wreak havoc till 4 a.m. in the morning. Your restaurant does not. I'm not saying at all that it does. Believe me. I really feel like there has to be a compromise, and I really felt like, and I still feel like, I know that you guys have hired lawyers, both my next door neighbor as well. Why didn't you come? Why didn't
We didn't want,
go together and listen to the
we didn't want to
noise?
do that. We asked, again, I think there was a systematic effort, because we got sued after we were open for 3 weeks. We tried to have a conversation,
Yeah.
and Lucille demanded something, and we could not do that in 3 weeks, nor did we know exactly where the sound level was. We were never invited up, and then we were sued. And so now after we were sued, there's nothing I can do. I can't go to her and start talking to her, because now lawyers are involved, and it's an issue. But we did have testing done, and you know, the testing came out basically in our favor.
Well,
Yeah,
we're
this
not-
still,
we're not-
there was no noise complaint. That's
We're
a
not stopping
that's-
this. And
Well,
the
well,
police, we
wait a
never
minute,
had
there
a...
was a noise complaint filed. She did file one, and I don't.
No,
She
she
has
didn't.
filed. She
She
has
didn't.
filed.
Do we have, does anyone have a copy? You guys have a
Would
copy?
you like me to get it?
I
get it?
think Lucille should be here.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
because
believe, and
talking
she
too
wishes
much
she
for
could
her.
too, because
There
she's.
is no noise complaint. It's a lawsuit. The police never came out. 311 was never called. No one ever came to our door to say, hey, what are you guys
There is-
doing in
there is
here?
a-
Okay, let's
Yeah.
Not
let's hear from someone else.
on Blue Jean.
Who'd like to say?
Good evening. I live in the building as well. Unfortunately, I'm not on the side of the issue that's being put before you. And the principal reason that I came this evening, because I wanted to hear, you know, what the various arguments were. I do absolutely believe in compromise. I have been in the restaurant. It is quiet. I mean, I can't speak to the department above it. That's, you know, because, but one of the things that really triggered me to come here tonight is that the woman who lives in the unit,
Lucille.
thank you, put out a bulletin to everybody in the building,
Right.
and she put some statements in there that are just, in my opinion, very much not accurate.
Okay.
Notably, she says, quote, "We don't need another bar in the neighborhood." Well, first of all, Blue Jean's not a bar, it's a restaurant. And in fact, as I believe all of you know, Frederick Douglass Boulevard is called Restaurant
Restaurant
Row.
Row.
I mean, that's what it is. And so, I mean, and there's this row house, this new place that, you know, they're in the process of preparing to open, and several others are coming along. It's a very vibrant, it's a great place, it's making Harlem, you know, in many, it's making it a destination place. So I tend to support that. The other thing that was in this bulletin that was put under everyone's door, it said then one of the things that will happen is it will begin to make our property values decline.
Right.
Well, first of all, nothing could be further from the truth. And I could stand here for the next 20 minutes. You know, I dabble in real estate, and I know, and there's a couple of units in the building that have increased 100% since the building came on stream 5 years ago. So there's no validity of that piece whatsoever. And in all fairness, Ken and I know each other just visually, but we've never actually met before this evening.
Right.
The other thing is that these people did receive a discount, if you will, or some kind of consideration, I have no idea the order of magnitude,
Right.
when they purchased their units, and they knew, because they said, look, these are the kinds of things that would happen. So I'm not saying, you know, tough it out, I am saying clearly try to find a way, and I agree with, I'm sorry, which of you gentlemen said that he's trying to do the right, you did, I'm sorry, sir, trying to do the right thing. So I just wanted to point that out, because, you know, facts are facts, and, you know, I believe in drama, but only on stage. So I think that to the extent, you know, that you try to find a way to work out something that's intelligent, and it's reasonable, and everyone has got a you know, a positive outcome.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And I would like to also say that I also agree with the fact that it sounds like everyone here is interested in working out a compromise and
Yes,
seeing the thing
yeah.
through, and which is what we should be.
Yes.
I work on a grassroots level with the L Lounge, I go down and I see the manager and I say, give me your phone number. Give me your cell phone, and I'm gonna text you when it's too loud. It's getting too loud. It's getting too low. It's too loud.
That's what-
And in general, I'd say 85% of the time, it's working. And I'd rather approach everything like that. If it had been my apartment you were underneath, I would have invited you upstairs during rush hour, just so you could.
Well, I have another point about the waiver that I've seen, and I didn't bring that, I'm sorry. I didn't think I needed to bring that. But in the waiver they signed, because it's not just a retail space, but it was designed to be a restaurant space. In the waiver, it specifically says, you will hear voices, you will hear activity.
Wow.
Well, that I still want them to send to us so that we can read it and see it.
It's part of the suit. My attorney had that subpoena.
Okay.
They didn't offer that, but we had it subpoenaed.
Yeah, I'd like to
It's
see
in
it
the
just to
suit.
myself, just so I can see it as well. And I don't want to take any more time up, but
Thank you.
But I do say that on the second floor of every building, on every block I walk down, the apartments above the restaurants are either empty in a lot of places, or there's a lot of problems going on. And one of the things is that I really don't think that the building construction and the codes and stuff have really gotten technically gotten their case together and really made it so that it is a much more substantial soundproofing just in the beginning part of it. And I honestly feel like the floor I'm on, and it may have to do with construction, that this side of it is much better than above where you're at. Because I looked into it when you guys were doing constructions up there. You have a it's right to the bottom slab. It's right up there. There's nothing.
What would you say to the question that when we've had these things before, when there's been a lot of noise, the building comes out, there's not one sign, letters. Why do you think that's not the case here? If that's such a problem with the sound, let's even go with your position. He says no complaints, you say one complaint. Why isn't there a lot of people
More
there
complaints?
If that is the problem? We've
young
seen that in
lady-
other situations.
The young lady that just moved into the apartment above, right dead above Londell, the previous owner, Chris, and he was living there. He worked with Londell. When their air conditioning they put in was just vibrating right up to everything, he contacted them, they worked it out, they came back. Everybody did something to work the situation out. Even in my case, when
I'm talking about the people in the other, why has there been more people in the building?
to be honest with you, there is no such thing as something that I would like to see have done, and that's called the second floor coalition for New York residents, because it's the second floor of every building, residential. When you put a commercial space in, there isn't enough being done in advance to sort of stop some of this.
Then would a good question for the second floor coalition be, then why did you move on the second floor and sign an agreement that looks like gave you a financial benefit that indicates there is gonna be exactly what you're complaining about in place now?
Number one, we were the last person to move in on the second floor. I can only speak for myself, first of all. Second of all, we were called at the last minute that somebody had backed out and moved in. There was no mention of deductions, we knew that there was a church. We knew that there was a possibility of a lounge being set up. All those things were told to us. That's why I came down. Within the first 4 hours of being in the building, they said, oh, we're going to community board. Ken, let's go down here. So I go down and come to listen. The only reason I can't afford to sue someone. I'm much better at going down and talking directly to a source. And
That's what you should do, though. Like,
Yeah.
as a community person, you go
Absolutely.
downstairs, you know,
Well,
sue someone right away, and that's.
Yeah.
Well, just on just speculative notion, and John would speak to this better. My attorney suggested that the reason we were sued was because if it had gone through normal channels, that the city would have found us not to be, or the city would have said, you just need to do this.
X, Y, and Z.
What is-
X, Y, and
what
Z.
is normal channel?
Well, you would go to the city and you would have a regular noise complaint, the police would come out and
Right.
you would go to court and then the city would send out, I forget the department that handles that, and then they would do a test at 10 o'clock or 8 o'clock, and then they would, right, DEP, and then they would send both parties a finding.
Right, okay.
And then they would also make recommendations, and then.
I know the process,
then
I'm
you-
just saying you say no.
Right, then you
Right.
have, that's what you have to do, but I think it was suggested to them that, you may lose that. And if you want them closed, then we have to sue them.
Right.
And